The daughter of a Canadian woman who was arrested live on a reality TV show half a world away is speaking out tonight, pleading for her mother's release from prison. And she spoke to CTV's Kathy Lee.
A mother and daughter's bond is unbreakable, but Alicia Hunt has had to be even stronger than that, speaking for her mom sitting in a Sierra Leone prison for more than a month now.
We've had many restless nights.
Not to say anything.
Hawa Hunt's arrest was captured on live television in December. She was a contestant on Sierra Leone's House of Stars, a reality show. The 42-year-old Calgarian who has dual citizenship in Canada and Sierra Leone was thrown in jail for criticizing President Julius Maada and the First Lady in this social media post in 2023. Hunt says her mother and the First Lady grew up together.
Technically, my mom did break the law. However, I do feel that her punishment has been unjust.
Hunt apologized after her arrest, but it wasn't enough. Prosecutors claim her video incited public disorder and damaged the reputation of the country's leader and his wife.
The Cybersecurity and Crimes Act was not supposed to be used to suppress dissenting voices or to hinder free speech.
Amnesty International agrees, demanding for Hawa's release and a fair trial, saying her multiple requests for bail have been refused while her mental health has been affected. The single mother of 3 awaits her second trial in Sierra Leone's High Court and will apply for bail again. Her family is worried about her treatment in jail.
Even though her mental health is not doing the best, she's really trying to stay hopeful.
Global Affairs Canada says it's aware of the arrest of a Canadian citizen in Sierra Leone, and consular officials are in contact with local authorities. Kathy Lee.
Canadian citizen jailed in Sierra Leone for criticizing the President and First Lady, a battle for free speech. Welcome back to the Bold African Voice, BAV, where we dive deep into critical political issues shaping Africa today. I'm Abdul Karim Kargbo, born and raised in Africa. In this video, we discuss the case of Hawa Hunt, a Canadian citizen currently imprisoned in Sierra Leone for criticizing the President and First Lady. We'll explore what this means for free speech, democracy, and human rights in Sierra Leone and across Africa. Stay tuned for a thorough analysis and comparison with similar issues across the continent. In December 2024, Hawa Hunt, a 42-year-old dual Canadian and Sierra Leonean citizen, was arrested during a live broadcast of the reality TV show House of Stars in Sierra Leone. Her arrest stemmed from a May 2023 video in which she criticized President Julius Maada and First Lady Fatima Maada, charged under the Cybersecurity and Crime Act 2021 for transmitting insulting messages via a computer system. Hunt's detention has ignited discussions on freedom of expression, the application of cybercrime laws, and the treatment of dissenting voices in Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone's Cybersecurity and Crime Act 2021. The Cybersecurity and Crime Act 2021 was enacted to address the increasing prevalence of cybercrimes and to establish a legal framework for digital communications. The Act defines various offenses, including unauthorized access to computer systems, cyberstalking, and the transmission of insulting messages. Section 44 specifically addresses cyberstalking and cyberbullying, outlining penalties for individuals found guilty of such offenses. While the Act aims to protect individuals from online harm, its application has raised concerns regarding potential misuse to suppress free speech. Critics argue that the law's broad provisions could be leveraged to target political dissent and criticism of government officials. Amnesty International has expressed apprehension about the Act's potential to infringe upon freedom of expression, emphasizing the need for laws that do not stifle dissenting voices. Comparative analysis. Africa-wide perspective. Across Africa, the implementation of cybercrime laws has been met with mixed reactions. In countries like Nigeria and Ghana, similar legislation has been enacted to combat cybercrimes. However, these laws have also faced criticism for being used to target journalists, activists, and political opponents. For instance, in Nigeria, The Cybercrimes Act has been criticized for provisions that could be used to suppress free speech and press freedom. Similarly, in Ghana, concerns have been raised about the potential for the Cybersecurity Act to be used against individuals expressing dissenting opinions online. The common thread in these instances is the tension between the legitimate need to combat cybercrime and the imperative to protect fundamental rights such as freedom of expression and the press. The challenge lies in ensuring that cybercrime laws are crafted and implemented in a manner that balances security concerns with the protection of civil liberties. Forward-looking approach. Recommendations for Sierra Leone. To address the concerns surrounding the Cybersecurity and Crime Act 2021 and its application, several measures are recommended. 1. Clear definitions and proportionality. The Act should provide precise definitions of offenses to prevent arbitrary interpretations. Penalties should be proportionate to the severity of the offense, ensuring that minor infractions do not result in disproportionate punishments. 2. Safeguards for freedom of expression. Incorporate explicit provisions that protect freedom of expression, ensuring that the law cannot be used to suppress legitimate criticism of government officials or policies. 3. Independent oversight mechanisms. Establish independent bodies to oversee the implementation of the Act, ensuring that its application adheres to human rights standards and is free from political influence. 4. Public awareness and education. Conduct public education campaigns to inform citizens about the provisions of the Act and their rights under it, fostering a culture of responsible digital citizenship. Latest developments. As of February 2025, Hawa Hunt remains in detention with multiple bail requests denied. Her daughter, Alicia Hunt, has expressed concerns about her mother's health and the conditions of her detention, including reports of inadequate food and potential physical abuse. Amnesty International continues to call for her immediate release and a fair trial, highlighting the broader implications for freedom of expression in Sierra Leone. The case of Hawa Hunt underscores the delicate balance that Sierra Leone must navigate between combating cybercrime and safeguarding fundamental human rights. It serves as a critical juncture for the nation to reassess its legal frameworks to ensure they align with international human rights standards while effectively addressing the challenges posed by the digital age. International reactions and the call for reform. The arrest of Hawa Hunt has not only sparked concern within Sierra Leone, but also garnered significant international attention. Human rights organizations, including Amnesty International, have criticized the charges against Hunt, calling them politically motivated and a clear violation of her freedom of expression. Amnesty International's call for Hunt's immediate release is rooted in their belief that the law under which she is being charged is excessively vague and can be easily exploited to silence dissent. Furthermore, Amnesty has stressed the importance of decriminalizing offenses like libel and defamation, arguing that such charges should not be used to target individuals who voice their criticism of political leaders or policies. As Rashid Doumbouya, Hunt's defense counsel, pointed out, such laws should never be leveraged to stop dissenting voices or hinder free speech, a sentiment that echoes the broader international community's concerns over the growing trend of suppressing opposition voices in Africa. This case is part of a troubling pattern in African politics, where dissent and critique of the government often lead to legal ramifications. This has been observed in several countries across the continent, where leaders are increasingly using legal mechanisms to silence critics. The potential misuse of the Cybersecurity and Crime Act in Sierra Leone raises questions about the ability of democratic institutions to protect fundamental freedoms and ensure that dissent is not stifled under the guise of security. The broader context of Africa's political landscape must be considered when analyzing this case. In countries like Uganda, Tanzania, and Rwanda, similar charges against journalists and political activists have been used to stifle criticism. These actions have led to strained relations between governments and human rights organizations, with growing calls for reforms that protect individuals' rights to free expression while maintaining public order and national security. Sierra Leone must navigate this delicate balance and avoid following the troubling path of more authoritarian regimes on the continent. Sierra Leone's constitutional and democratic challenges. Sierra Leone, like many other African nations, has a history of political instability and civil conflict, with a brutal civil war lasting from 1991 to 2002. Although the country has made significant strides in rebuilding its institutions since the end of the war, challenges persist, particularly in governance and the rule of law. The legal and political landscape remains fragile, with the potential for the abuse of power by those in leadership positions. The case of Hawa Hunt raises critical questions about Sierra Leone's commitment to democratic ideals and human rights. While the country has made progress in certain areas, such as the peaceful transition of power in recent elections, the government's recent crackdown on criticism points to a more authoritarian shift. The arrest of Hunt for voicing her opinions online echoes the broader issue of restricted political freedoms, which has been a growing concern in many African countries. These developments threaten the fragile democratic gains that have been achieved in Sierra Leone in recent years. Furthermore, there is a need for legal reforms to ensure that Sierra Leone's laws, particularly those related to cybercrime and defamation, align with international human rights standards. This includes the decriminalization of offenses like defamation and libel, which are often used as tools to suppress free speech and target political opponents. In this regard, Sierra Leone could benefit from a comprehensive review of its legal system to ensure that it remains robust while respecting citizens' rights to express dissent. The role of international diplomacy and pressure. As the situation unfolds, the role of international actors, including Canada, the United Nations, and various human rights organizations, becomes crucial in pressuring the Sierra Leonean government to uphold international standards of human rights. Global Affairs Canada has already expressed its concern over Hunt's arrest, and diplomatic channels between Ottawa and Freetown are in place to ensure that the Canadian citizen is treated fairly. It is important that Canada, along with other international actors, continues to advocate for Hunt's release and a fair trial, while also addressing broader issues of political freedom and human rights in Sierra Leone. Diplomatic pressure can play a pivotal role in encouraging Sierra Leone to review its approach to freedom of speech, particularly in the context of social media and online expression. The international community must not remain passive in the face of increasing repression, especially when it involves the rights of individuals to express their views without fear of arrest or persecution. Sierra Leone's international relationships, especially with countries that champion human rights, will be under scrutiny as this case progresses. The government's response to this issue will send a strong message about its commitment to the protection of civil liberties and its adherence to the principles of democratic governance. This case also serves as an important test for Sierra Leone's legal system, especially in its handling of sensitive issues such as freedom of expression and the treatment of political dissent. As Hawa Hunt continues to await trial, the international community and her family hope that her case will serve as a catalyst for broader discussions about the rights of citizens in Sierra Leone and other African countries to express their opinions freely. The growing trend of using the legal system to silence critics threatens to undermine democratic progress and will need to be addressed to ensure that the rights of individuals are protected in the digital age. A crossroads for Sierra Leone's democracy. The ongoing case of Hawa Hunt is a defining moment for Sierra Leone, a country at a crossroads in its democratic journey. How the government responds to this issue will have significant implications for the future of civil liberties and freedom of expression in the country. For Sierra Leone to continue the path towards strengthening its democratic institutions, it must find a way to balance the need for security with the protection of its citizens' fundamental rights. In the broader context of Africa, Hunt's case is indicative of a larger trend of increasing repression of political dissent across the continent. If Sierra Leone follows the trajectory of other African nations that have cracked down on dissent, it risks undermining the hard-won peace and democratic gains made since the end of the Civil War. However, if the government chooses to uphold the principles of free speech and a fair trial, it could become a model for other nations in the region that are facing similar challenges. In the coming months, the world will be watching closely as Hawa Hunt's trial unfolds. This case is more than just the story of one woman's arrest. It is a critical juncture for Sierra Leone and for Africa as a whole in its ongoing struggle to reconcile political power with human rights. The future of free speech and legal reforms in Sierra Leone. As the case of Hawa Hunt progresses through the legal system, it highlights the pressing need for legal reforms that protect individuals' right to free speech, while also addressing genuine concerns regarding online abuse and cybercrimes. The situation places Sierra Leone at a critical juncture where the country must reassess its approach to balancing security and civil liberties in the digital age. For Sierra Leone to fully embrace the ideals of democracy and human rights, it must focus on reforming its legal framework to ensure that cybercrime laws are not used as tools for political repression. The country's leadership must recognize the potential harm caused by laws that are too broad and susceptible to abuse. Without these reforms, Sierra Leone risks undermining the very democratic institutions it has worked to build over the past decades. It is essential that cybercrime laws are designed in a way that addresses real threats, such as online fraud, without stifling legitimate political discourse. As the country looks forward, it must consider the broader implications of its legal and political climate on its international standing. The international community, particularly Western nations that advocate for human rights, will be closely observing how Sierra Leone handles this case and others like it. Sierra Leone's ability to maintain strong diplomatic relations with these nations will depend on its commitment to upholding the rule of law and ensuring that individuals can freely express their opinions without fear of retribution. Moreover, Sierra Leone's regional leadership and role in Africa will also be under scrutiny. The country has long been a symbol of post-conflict recovery in West Africa, and its trajectory in terms of democratic reforms will be seen as an example by neighboring countries. Should Sierra Leone fail to protect the rights of individuals like Hunt, it could send a negative signal to other African nations that are already grappling with similar issues regarding free speech and government accountability. Sierra Leone's journey towards strengthening democracy. The arrest and subsequent treatment of Hawa Hunt represent a flashpoint for the government of Sierra Leone. While the country has made significant strides in its post-war recovery, this case brings to light how fragile democratic principles can be when political tensions rise and dissent is suppressed. The long-term success of Sierra Leone's democratic system hinges on the government's ability to protect freedom of expression and encourage open dialogue, even when that dialogue is critical of the ruling establishment. In this regard, the international community has a critical role to play. By continuing to pressure the Sierra Leonean government to release Hunt and ensure a fair trial, the global community can help reinforce the importance of upholding democratic norms. Canada, as Hunt's country of citizenship, has already engaged in diplomatic efforts to ensure her safety, and it is crucial that these efforts continue. As part of this effort, Canada could also partner with other nations and international organizations to foster dialogue between Sierra Leone's government, civil society groups, and human rights organizations to push for greater protections for political dissent. Sierra Leone could consider drawing inspiration from other African nations that have successfully navigated the balance between security and freedom. For example, South Africa's constitutional framework strongly protects freedom of speech, even when it involves criticism of political figures. The country's judiciary has proven to be an independent force in safeguarding individual rights, and Sierra Leone could benefit from building a similarly robust legal system that upholds free expression and ensures that dissent is not criminalized. Impact on Sierra Leone's image and economic development. Beyond the political and legal implications, this case could also impact on Sierra Leone's international image and its economic development. As one of the poorer nations in West Africa, Sierra Leone depends heavily on international aid, foreign investment, and trade. A reputation for political repression could deter potential investors and international partners who value political stability and democratic governance. Moreover, tourism, which has the potential to contribute to the country's economy, could also be negatively affected if Sierra Leone gains a reputation for restricting basic freedoms. The country must ask itself how it wishes to be perceived on the global stage. Does it want to be seen as a progressive, democratic nation that upholds human rights and protects the freedoms of its citizens? Or will it become another example of a government that uses legal frameworks to suppress political opposition and stifle public debate? These questions are central to the future of Sierra Leone and its role in the broader African and international community. Economic development and democratic progress are intertwined. A climate of political freedom and openness is necessary to foster innovation, attract investment, and build a vibrant economy. By committing to legal reforms that protect free speech, Sierra Leone can enhance its economic prospects and its standing in the international community. The role of technology and social media in Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone's case also reflects the growing tension between traditional forms of governance and the rapid rise of digital platforms, especially social media. In many African countries, the advent of the internet and social media has allowed for greater political participation and the amplification of voices that were previously marginalized. However, this newfound access to communication and information has also raised concerns among governments that have historically controlled the flow of information. For Sierra Leone, the case of Hawa Hunt highlights the challenge of regulating digital platforms while maintaining respect for the freedoms these platforms provide. While the internet offers a space for free expression, it also exposes governments to criticism on a much larger scale. As Sierra Leone contemplates the future of its digital landscape, it must decide how to regulate cyberspace in a way that balances the needs of national security with the protection of citizens' rights to speak freely online. Digital platforms will continue to play an increasingly significant role in Sierra Leone's political and social life, and the government must find a way to navigate this new era of digital communication. Rather than resorting to punitive measures, Sierra Leone could invest in digital literacy programs, public education about responsible online behavior, and an independent body to oversee complaints about online content. These measures could help the country develop a more mature and responsible approach to managing its online space while safeguarding its citizens' rights. Global solidarity and the pursuit of justice. Hawa Hunt's case has sparked global solidarity for her release and for the protection of free speech in Sierra Leone. Amnesty International, local human rights organizations, and her family have rallied to her cause, calling for the Sierra Leonean government to reconsider its treatment of critics and to release Hunt without further delay. This international solidarity will likely play an important role in pressuring the government to ensure that Hunt's case is resolved fairly and that her rights are fully protected. The case is not just about one woman's arrest. It is part of a larger struggle for the protection of individual freedoms across the African continent. Governments in Africa must realize that suppressing free speech and targeting critics does not strengthen their hold on power. Instead, it erodes the trust of the people and isolates them from the international community. Sierra Leone, like many African nations, must chart a path that respects human rights while addressing the challenges of governance in the digital age. As we await the continuation of Hunt's trial and the eventual outcome, the world will be watching. Sierra Leone's response will serve as a bellwether for other nations on the continent that face similar issues with balancing security and freedom in the digital age. The international community's continued engagement, paired with meaningful legal reforms within Sierra Leone, could set the stage for a more open and democratic future for the country. A wider African context, challenges and opportunities for reform. As Hawa Hunt's case unfolds, it is important to place it within the broader context of Africa's democratic evolution. Across the continent, political repression, the muzzling of free speech, and the criminalization of dissent are ongoing issues in many countries. Hunt's arrest is not an isolated incident, but rather part of a concerning trend where governments in Africa are increasingly using cybercrime laws and other legal frameworks to curtail free expression, especially when it comes to criticism of political leaders. This situation is not unique to Sierra Leone. In countries like Uganda, Tanzania, and Zimbabwe, leaders have used similar strategies to target journalists, activists, and opposition figures who challenge their authority. For instance, the arrest of Ugandan opposition leader Bobi Wine and the repeated crackdown on dissenting voices in Zimbabwe through similar cyber laws point to a growing pattern of using the digital space as a tool of political control. These trends threaten the basic tenets of democratic governance and the free exchange of ideas, which are fundamental to any healthy society. However, it's also worth noting that there are examples in Africa where the legal system has been used to protect freedom of speech. South Africa, for example, has a strong constitutional framework that guarantees freedom of expression. The South African government has also been willing to hold its leaders accountable, evidenced by numerous legal battles that have led to transparency in government actions. Sierra Leone, with its relatively young democracy, could learn valuable lessons from such countries in balancing national security concerns with the need for robust free speech protections. Looking ahead, Sierra Leone has an opportunity to not only reform its laws, but also become a model for how countries in West Africa and across the continent can strengthen democracy without sacrificing their citizens' rights. However, this will require more than just legal changes. There needs to be a shift in the political culture toward greater tolerance of dissent and criticism. Civil society's role in safeguarding freedom of expression. In Sierra Leone, as elsewhere in Africa, civil society plays a crucial role in advocating for political and legal reforms. Human rights organizations, journalists, and activists have long been at the forefront of challenging unjust laws and fighting for the protection of individual freedoms. In this case, organizations like Amnesty International, along with local groups, have voiced their concern over Hunt's arrest and the broader implications for free speech in Sierra Leone. Their efforts are critical not only in securing Hunt's release, but also in pushing for broader reforms that will protect citizens from political repression. At the same time, Sierra Leone's vibrant civil society must be able to operate freely without the threat of persecution. Non-governmental organizations, journalists, and activists should have the space to express their views and hold the government accountable without fear of arrest or intimidation. This requires a legal environment where human rights are not only enshrined in law, but are actively upheld by the courts, law enforcement, and political leaders. A key aspect of this effort involves strengthening the rule of law. The legal system must be independent, transparent, and capable of protecting individual rights. This means judicial reforms are essential for ensuring that cases involving free speech or political dissent are adjudicated fairly, without political interference. Courts should serve as neutral arbiters in cases of this nature, and the rule of law should always prevail over political considerations. Sierra Leone's international obligations and accountability. Sierra Leone, as a member of various international human rights treaties, including the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, ICCPR, is bound to uphold certain standards regarding freedom of expression and the protection of civil liberties. The ICCPR, which Sierra Leone ratified, explicitly protects the right to freedom of expression, stating that everyone shall have the right to hold opinions without interference and to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas of all kinds. By detaining Hawa Hunt for expressing her opinion about the President and First Lady, Sierra Leone appears to be in violation of its international obligations under the ICCPR. This is where international pressure can play a pivotal role. The United Nations, African Union, and countries with strong human rights records can exert pressure on Sierra Leone to ensure that the country adheres to its commitments under international law. Diplomatic engagement, alongside public support from international human rights organizations, can create the conditions necessary for Sierra Leone to reconsider its approach to freedom of expression and legal protections for critics of the government. The pressure from the international community also serves as a reminder that Sierra Leone's reputation on the world stage hinges on its adherence to human rights. While it is true that every nation must balance national security with the protection of individual freedoms, the approach taken by Sierra Leone in this case has raised concerns about the direction in which the country is headed. If Sierra Leone is to maintain strong diplomatic and economic relationships, it must demonstrate its commitment to human rights and the rule of law, ensuring that individuals like Hunt are not silenced for speaking out against government policies. Lessons from the past, Sierra Leone's recovery, and the role of democracy. Sierra Leone's journey to democracy has been a hard-fought one. After a devastating civil war that ravaged the country from 1991 to 2002, the nation has made considerable strides in rebuilding its institutions and fostering democratic governance. The peaceful transition of power during recent elections marked a significant achievement for the country. However, as the case of Hawa Hunt shows, the fight for democracy is ongoing. It is crucial that Sierra Leone's leaders recognize the importance of upholding the democratic values that the country has worked so hard to build. Respect for human rights, including freedom of speech, must remain at the forefront of any democratic agenda. In a country that is still healing from the scars of war, it is essential that the government demonstrates that it values the contributions of all its citizens, including those who offer criticism or alternative viewpoints. For Sierra Leone to fully realize its potential as a democratic nation, it must address the concerns raised by cases like Hunt's. Political leaders must take steps to ensure that their citizens' rights are protected and that dissent is not criminalized. Only by doing so can Sierra Leone continue to build a robust, democratic system that truly reflects the will and aspirations of its people. Economic and social consequences of political repression. The repercussions of political repression extend beyond the immediate concerns of civil rights and freedoms. The case of Hawa Hunt may have an impact on Sierra Leone's economy as well. Investors and foreign partners are more likely to invest in countries where political stability and the rule of law are firmly established. A reputation for political repression can deter foreign investment, particularly in industries such as tourism, technology, and infrastructure, which require an open and stable environment for growth. Moreover, the broader social implications of political repression cannot be ignored. When individuals feel they are unable to voice their opinions freely, it undermines the sense of trust between the people and the government. This can lead to increased social unrest and a diminished sense of national cohesion. For Sierra Leone to continue its path towards prosperity, it must create an environment where citizens feel empowered to participate in the political process and engage in open dialogue without fear of repercussions. Hawa Hunt's case represents a crucial moment for Sierra Leone. How the government responds to this incident will have profound implications for the future of the country's democracy, legal system, and international reputation. With the support of both local and international human rights organizations, as well as the continued advocacy of her family and the global community, there is hope that Sierra Leone will choose the path of reform, strengthening its democratic foundations and ensuring that all voices, no matter how critical, are heard and respected. Public opinion and the role of media in Sierra Leone's political landscape. The arrest of Hawa Hunt has also raised important questions about the role of media and public opinion in Sierra Leone's political environment. Social media has become a powerful tool for political expression and activism across Africa, including in Sierra Leone. The case of Hunt is a stark reminder of how easily the digital landscape can become a battleground for political power and control. In a world where information travels quickly across digital platforms, individuals like Hunt, who use social media to express their views, play an important role in influencing public opinion and holding governments accountable. However, this increased visibility comes with its own set of challenges. Governments, including that of Sierra Leone, may view online criticism as a threat to their authority and respond by tightening control over the digital space. The question then arises, How should governments balance the right to free expression with the legitimate concerns around misinformation and national security? Sierra Leone's media landscape is diverse, but it remains vulnerable to political manipulation. While the country has made strides in creating a more open environment for journalists and media outlets, the criminalization of criticism suggests that press freedom is still at risk. The fact that Hunt's criticism was posted online and later led to her arrest indicates a lack of robust protection for online content creators, journalists, and social media influencers. For Sierra Leone to move forward as a democracy, it must ensure that its media laws protect free speech and the press, particularly in the face of increasing political pressure. Additionally, the role of international media in shaping perceptions of Sierra Leone cannot be understated. Coverage of Hunt's arrest has sparked global conversations about the state of freedom of expression in the country, bringing international attention to Sierra Leone's political environment. This attention has the potential to influence domestic politics, but it also presents an opportunity for Sierra Leone to engage in constructive dialogues about how it can strengthen its media ecosystem and protect free speech in both traditional and digital formats. As the case progresses, public opinion will continue to play a crucial role in determining the political ramifications of the arrest. If a significant portion of the Sierra Leonean public views Hunt's arrest as an unjust action, it could trigger public protests or lead to calls for political reform. Given the importance of public opinion in shaping policy, the government must be mindful of how its actions, particularly regarding free speech, resonate with its citizens. Legal challenges and the potential for judicial reform. One of the key elements that will determine the outcome of Hawa Hunt's case is the independence and integrity of Sierra Leone's judiciary. The handling of her trial could serve as a test for the strength of the country's legal institutions and their ability to maintain fairness in politically sensitive cases. Judicial independence is a cornerstone of any democratic society, and if Hunt's trial is perceived as politically motivated or influenced by government pressure, it could undermine public trust in the judiciary and the rule of law. As Sierra Leone continues to strengthen its democratic institutions, judicial reform should be a top priority. Legal reforms aimed at enhancing the independence of the judiciary, ensuring that judges are insulated from political interference, and reinforcing the transparency of court proceedings are necessary steps to build public confidence in the legal system. Sierra Leone's legal system must evolve to meet the challenges of modern governance, particularly as the country navigates the intersection of traditional legal norms and the digital age. In Hunt's case, the legal proceedings have already raised concerns about due process. Her repeated denial of bail and prolonged detention in an overcrowded and under-resourced prison suggest potential violations of international human rights standards, particularly in relation to the fair treatment of detainees. These concerns are compounded by reports from her family that she has faced harsh conditions, including inadequate food and possible mistreatment. Such conditions highlight the need for comprehensive reform of Sierra Leone's prison system, which remains a significant challenge for the country. Addressing these issues not only has the potential to improve conditions for all prisoners, but could also signal a commitment to human rights that strengthens the country's international reputation. In the coming months, the outcome of Hunt's trial will provide critical insights into the workings of Sierra Leone's judiciary. If the courts rule in favor of the government, it will send a message that political dissent is not tolerated, and that the government is prepared to suppress opposition. However, if the courts rule in favor of Hunt, it will signal that Sierra Leone's judiciary is willing to uphold the principles of justice, free speech, and the protection of individual rights. Regardless of the outcome, the case is likely to serve as a catalyst for wider conversations about judicial independence, legal reform, and the protection of civil liberties in Sierra Leone. The importance of international collaboration and support. Sierra Leone's legal and political challenges in addressing freedom of expression, particularly in the digital age, highlight the need for international collaboration and support. The involvement of international human rights organizations and diplomatic entities is crucial in bringing attention to cases like Hawa Hunt's. As the country's government grapples with these complex issues, the international community can provide valuable expertise, resources, and support to help Sierra Leone navigate the balancing act between national security and the protection of democratic rights. Canada, as Hunt's country of citizenship, has already taken steps to address her situation by engaging with the Sierra Leonean government and seeking her release. Other international actors, such as the United Nations and the African Union, also have an important role to play in pressuring Sierra Leone to uphold international human rights standards. These international bodies can help in the form of diplomatic channels, advocacy, and technical expertise in developing laws and policies that protect freedom of speech without compromising national security. Furthermore, international organizations can work with Sierra Leone to ensure that future legal frameworks are crafted in a way that protects both security and freedom of expression. International bodies can provide guidance on developing laws that specifically address online speech while ensuring that they do not infringe upon the fundamental rights of citizens. This kind of collaboration is essential for ensuring that Sierra Leone remains committed to its democratic principles and continues to make progress in protecting human rights. As Sierra Leone moves forward, it will be important for the country to strengthen its relationships with international partners who are committed to promoting democracy and human rights. By learning from the experiences of other nations and drawing on the expertise of international organizations, Sierra Leone can improve its legal and political systems and safeguard the rights of its citizens. The role of youth and activism in shaping the future. One of the most significant aspects of the Hawa Hunt case is its potential impact on Sierra Leone's younger generation. As the country continues to evolve into a more democratic society, the role of youth and activism cannot be overstated. Young people in Sierra Leone, like their counterparts across Africa, are increasingly becoming more engaged in political issues, particularly through digital platforms. Social media has provided a unique opportunity for youth to voice their concerns, mobilize around issues of injustice, and challenge political leaders. The case of Hunt, a social media influencer and musician, resonates with many young Sierra Leoneans who see her as a symbol of their ability to express themselves freely. If Hunt's case is resolved in a way that upholds her right to free expression, it could encourage greater political participation and activism among young people who could use this moment to demand greater accountability and reform from their leaders. Conversely, if the government succeeds in silencing critics like Hunt, it could dampen the enthusiasm of young activists and contribute to a sense of disillusionment among the youth. In this context, youth activism plays a pivotal role in shaping Sierra Leone's future. The government must recognize the power of young people influencing political change and be prepared to engage with them in a constructive and open manner. Providing platforms for youth to participate in the political process while safeguarding their rights to free expression is essential for fostering a vibrant democracy in Sierra Leone. The growing movement for youth participation in politics, combined with increasing access to digital tools, means that young people will be key drivers of change in Sierra Leone. Whether through social media, protests, or political engagement, the youth have the potential to be a transformative force in Sierra Leone's democratic journey. The government's response to cases like Hawa Hunt's will set the tone for how it handles dissent and youth activism in the future. Youth as catalysts for change, building a stronger, more inclusive democracy. The growing influence of youth in shaping the political and social landscape of Sierra Leone presents both opportunities and challenges. As young people become more politically active, they bring fresh perspectives, new ideas, and a sense of urgency to pressing issues such as human rights, governance, and freedom of expression. In many African countries, including Sierra Leone, youth have emerged as a significant force in demanding accountability, transparency, and justice from their governments. The case of Hawa Hunt is a stark example of how digital activism and online platforms have empowered young people to voice their concerns, challenge government policies, and hold political leaders accountable. Hunt, who has used her platform to speak out on various issues, embodies the new generation of Sierra Leoneans who are unafraid to criticize authority and push for positive change. Her arrest has raised awareness about the precarious state of free speech in Sierra Leone, and it has sparked conversations about the limits of government control over digital spaces and the rights of citizens to express their opinions. The fact that Hunt's arrest occurred in the context of a social media post highlights the increasing significance of digital platforms in Sierra Leone's political discourse. Social media has become a powerful tool for young people to bypass traditional media channels and directly engage with a wider audience, including both domestic and international communities. For youth in Sierra Leone, social media represents a space where they can challenge the status quo, engage in political activism, and advocate for change without the same level of restriction that they might face in more traditional state-controlled media outlets. The challenge for Sierra Leone's government will be to recognize this growing influence of youth in social media while avoiding the temptation to impose excessive controls. Rather than viewing youth activism and criticism as threats, the government could see these voices as an essential component of a healthy democracy. By engaging with young people and addressing their concerns, the government can build a more inclusive political system that values the contributions of all its citizens. The global impact of Sierra Leone's handling of the case. As the case of Hawa Hunt continues to unfold, its impact will extend far beyond Sierra Leone's borders. This case has attracted significant international attention, particularly from human rights organizations, foreign governments, and global media outlets. The way Sierra Leone handles this issue will send a clear message about the country's commitment to human rights, the rule of law, and democratic principles. It will also affect Sierra Leone's relationships with international partners, particularly those that prioritize the protection of civil liberties and freedom of expression. For Sierra Leone, this case is an opportunity to demonstrate its adherence to international human rights standards. By ensuring that Hunt's trial is fair, transparent, and free from political interference, the government can show that it is committed to upholding the rights of all its citizens, regardless of their political views. In contrast, any attempt to suppress Hunt's voice through unjust legal actions will likely harm Sierra Leone's reputation on the global stage and could lead to strained diplomatic ties with countries and organizations that advocate for human rights. The involvement of the international community in this case can also put valuable pressure on Sierra Leone's government to adhere to global norms. Diplomatic channels, public statements, and calls from international human rights organizations can all contribute to ensuring that Hunt's case is handled in a way that reflects the country's international obligations. Moreover, global attention can highlight the broader issue of freedom of expression in Sierra Leone and encourage other African nations to take a closer look at their own legal frameworks regarding free speech. For international organizations such as Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and the United Nations, the Hunt case offers an opportunity to engage with Sierra Leone on critical issues related to civil rights. These organizations can use their platform to advocate for systemic reforms that protect individual freedoms while addressing the need for cybersecurity and online safety. The role of the African Union and ECOWAS in protecting free speech. As a member of both the African Union, AU, and the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, Sierra Leone is bound by regional agreements that promote democracy, human rights, and good governance. These organizations have a crucial role to play in addressing issues of freedom of speech and the protection of civil liberties in their member states. The AU has mechanisms to monitor human rights abuses and ensure that member states uphold the values outlined in the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. The African Union has long championed the protection of freedom of expression, as evidenced by its efforts to promote press freedom and political participation across the continent. ECOWAS, too, has played a significant role in advocating for democracy and human rights within West Africa. However, the challenge remains for both organizations to hold member states accountable when their governments violate these principles. The arrest of Hawa Hunt is an example of how regional bodies like the AU and ECOWAS can play an important role in pressuring governments to align their actions with regional commitments to human rights. In the case of Sierra Leone, Both the AU and ECOWAS should actively monitor the trial of Hawa Hunt and ensure that her right to a fair trial and freedom of expression is respected. These regional organizations can also work with Sierra Leone to help reform its legal system and ensure that laws governing digital platforms are applied in a way that protects citizens' rights rather than stifling dissent. By engaging with Sierra Leone through diplomatic and technical support, the AU and ECOWAS can help the country strengthen its democratic institutions and safeguard the rights of its citizens. Sierra Leone's path forward, striking a balance between security and freedom. As Sierra Leone grapples with the complexities of freedom of expression in the digital age, the country must find a way to balance the need for national security with the protection of individual rights. Cybersecurity is an important concern for any nation, especially as digital platforms become increasingly intertwined with every aspect of public and private life. However, it is crucial that Sierra Leone's government does not use national security concerns as a justification to curtail freedom of expression or political dissent. The future of Sierra Leone's democracy will depend on its ability to navigate these complex issues and build a legal framework that protects both security and human rights. The government must consider reforms to the Cybersecurity and Crime Act that consider the broader implications for free speech and the digital rights of citizens. This could involve creating more specific legal provisions that focus on actual cybercrimes, rather than allowing laws to be used as a tool to target individuals based on their political views. Moreover, the judiciary plays a critical role in ensuring that citizens' rights are protected. Judicial reforms are necessary to ensure that courts are independent and capable of delivering fair and impartial rulings, particularly in politically sensitive cases. If Sierra Leone's judiciary can demonstrate its commitment to upholding the rule of law and protecting civil liberties, it will strengthen the country's democratic institutions and send a positive message to both domestic and international audiences. Looking ahead, a call for reform and dialogue. The arrest of Hawa Hunt has sparked an important conversation about the state of democracy, free speech, and the rule of law in Sierra Leone. As the trial progresses, it is crucial that all stakeholders, from the government and judiciary to civil society and international actors, work together to ensure that the country remains committed to its democratic values. This case provides an opportunity for Sierra Leone to reflect on its democratic journey and take meaningful steps to safeguard the rights of its citizens. By protecting free speech, ensuring judicial independence, and engaging in constructive dialogue with civil society, Sierra Leone can move toward a future where political dissent is not criminalized and where citizens can freely express their opinions without fear of retribution. Ultimately, the outcome of this case will have significant implications for the future of Sierra Leone's democracy. It will be a test of the country's commitment to protecting fundamental rights and ensuring that all voices are heard, whether in the courtroom, on the streets, or online. Only by addressing these issues head-on can Sierra Leone continue to build a strong, inclusive democracy that reflects the aspirations of its people. A broader conversation on the future of governance in Sierra Leone. The arrest and trial of Hawa Hunt serve as a microcosm of broader issues facing Sierra Leone in its journey toward a more robust and inclusive democracy. While the government has made significant strides in rebuilding the country since the end of its civil war, the challenges of governance in the digital age remain formidable. This case highlights not only the complexities of managing a modern society in an era of rapid technological change, but also the tensions between maintaining national security and upholding fundamental democratic values like free speech and the protection of dissent. As Sierra Leone moves forward, it must recognize that the future of its democratic development hinges on creating an environment where citizens are free to express their opinions without fear of legal repercussions. Sierra Leone's political and legal system must adapt to the evolving global context of information dissemination, online expression, and the intersection of politics and social media. The digital world is no longer a niche space. It is the primary avenue through which political discourse takes place, particularly among the youth. The government must adopt policies that both safeguard security and protect the right to free expression in the online sphere. Moreover, this case serves as a reminder of the importance of political dialogue and engagement. The tendency to view political dissent as an attack on the government rather than an opportunity for constructive criticism can stifle meaningful progress. For Sierra Leone to foster a truly democratic society, political leaders must be open to listening to opposing viewpoints and engage in dialogue with critics. This approach will not only help improve governance, but also build a sense of shared ownership of the country's democratic future. Public perception and the role of civil society in strengthening democracy. The public perception of Hunt's case, particularly among Sierra Leoneans, will play a pivotal role in shaping the political landscape in the years to come. The way citizens view their government's actions, whether they see it as defending national security or suppressing free speech, will influence their level of trust in state institutions. The response to this case could either inspire greater political engagement or foster feelings of disillusionment, depending on how the situation is handled. Civil society organizations, human rights defenders, and activists play an essential role in shaping public opinion and holding the government accountable. The fact that organizations such as Amnesty International have rallied behind Hunt's case and called for her immediate release underscores the importance of a vibrant civil society that acts as a counterbalance to the power of the state. In a democracy, civil society serves as a watchdog, pushing back against any form of overreach by the government and advocating for the protection of citizens' rights. Sierra Leone's civil society must be allowed to operate without fear of reprisal. When citizens are free to express their opinions and advocate for change, it strengthens democracy and enhances political stability. A thriving civil society can also contribute to government transparency and accountability, ensuring that policies reflect the will of the people and that leaders remain answerable to those they serve. This is especially crucial in a post-conflict society like Sierra Leone, where the lessons of the past must inform future governance practices. The potential for legal reforms, a step toward strengthening democracy. One of the most significant outcomes that could arise from Hawa Hunt's case is the potential for legal reforms that protect both national security and freedom of expression. While the Cybersecurity and Crime Act 2021 was intended to protect citizens from online harm, its application in Hunt's case raises concerns about the broader implications for freedom of speech. The current law has the potential to be misused to silence criticism and curb political dissent, which could have long-term implications for Sierra Leone's democratic health. The government could take this opportunity to revisit the Cybersecurity and Crime Act and amend any provisions that may be excessively broad or open to abuse. Legal reforms that explicitly protect freedom of speech and prevent the misuse of laws to target political opponents or critics are essential for ensuring a fair and just legal system. Additionally, a transparent judicial process that upholds the principles of justice and due process will go a long way in restoring faith in the legal system and ensuring that political actors are held accountable. Reform should also extend to the broader legal and political frameworks that govern public participation in Sierra Leone. While the legal system is one aspect, the political culture surrounding it must evolve to embrace diversity of thought and open dialogue. This includes creating spaces for dissent to be heard, whether in the form of public demonstrations, online commentary, or media coverage. For Sierra Leone's democracy to be truly inclusive, all voices, even those critical of the government, must be respected and protected under the law. The role of education and public awareness in safeguarding civil liberties. In the long run, Sierra Leone's commitment to protecting freedom of expression and strengthening democracy will depend on educating its citizens about their rights and responsibilities. Public awareness campaigns aimed at informing the population about their legal rights, particularly in relation to online speech, could play a key role in preventing the criminalization of dissent. Citizens must understand the scope of their rights and the boundaries of acceptable speech, while also recognizing the importance of responsible online behavior. Education should also extend to government officials, law enforcement, and judicial actors who play a role in interpreting and enforcing the law. For Sierra Leone to create a legal environment that respects and protects free speech, there needs to be a shared understanding of the importance of these rights among those who are tasked with upholding them. Training programs for law enforcement and judicial officers that focus on human rights, civil liberties, and the importance of political participation could help foster a more democratic and just legal system. Public education campaigns can also help bridge the gap between the government and the people. By encouraging citizens to engage in dialogue with their leaders, these campaigns can create a sense of shared responsibility for the country's democratic future. When citizens feel empowered to speak up, challenge government policies, and demand accountability, it strengthens the social contract between the people and the state. A regional call for accountability. Lessons for West Africa. Sierra Leone's handling of Hunt's case is not just a national issue. It has implications for the entire West African region. West Africa has faced its share of political instability and authoritarian rule, with leaders in some countries using legal frameworks to suppress opposition voices. The case of Hawa Hunt highlights the region's broader struggle with balancing governance and free expression. In countries like Guinea, Liberia, and Côte d'Ivoire, political dissent has often been met with harsh repercussions, whether in the form of imprisonment, violence, or exile. These incidents undermine the foundations of democracy and prevent the development of inclusive, peaceful societies. Sierra Leone, having emerged from a brutal civil war, has a unique opportunity to lead by example in demonstrating that democracy, free speech, and human rights are essential for national stability. West African countries must collectively work toward creating a legal environment where free speech and political participation are protected, not stifled. This means strengthening regional institutions like the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, to hold member states accountable when they violate citizens' rights. ECOWAS has already played a key role in addressing political crises in the region, and it must continue to serve as a stabilizing force in promoting democratic principles. Sierra Leone's response to Hawa Hunt's case could influence the trajectory of democracy in West Africa. If the country upholds the principles of justice and human rights in this case, it could set a powerful precedent for the region. Conversely, if Sierra Leone fails to protect these rights, it could signal a setback for democratic governance in West Africa, where many countries are still grappling with the complexities of transitioning from autocratic rule to democracy. The path toward true democratic transformation. Sierra Leone's journey toward a fully realized democracy is ongoing, and Hawa Hunt's case serves as a critical moment for reflection and action. The outcome of her trial will be a key indicator of whether the country's commitment to human rights and free speech is genuine or superficial. As the government navigates this complex issue, it must take a holistic approach, one that includes legal reform, judicial independence, a robust civil society, and a renewed commitment to democratic principles. Ultimately, Sierra Leone's path to true democratic transformation will depend on its ability to create an environment where all citizens, whether in the digital space or in the streets, can engage in political discourse without fear of retribution. The country must balance security concerns with the protection of fundamental rights, ensuring that the law is not a tool for political repression, but a mechanism for safeguarding democracy. Only then can Sierra Leone fulfill its promise as a beacon of democratic hope in West Africa. Building bridges between government and citizens, the need for open dialogue. A critical aspect of the path forward for Sierra Leone lies in fostering an open and transparent dialogue between the government and its citizens. In recent years, political leaders have often been seen as distant from the needs and concerns of ordinary people. As Sierra Leone progresses towards strengthening its democratic institutions, it is essential that the government listens to the voices of its citizens, especially those who challenge its policies. In democracies around the world, the relationship between citizens and their leaders is built on trust. This trust is cultivated when political leaders acknowledge the concerns of the people and respond to criticism with a willingness to engage rather than suppress. The challenge, however, is for the Sierra Leonean government to break away from any tendency to view dissent as a threat to power and instead treat it as a vital part of a healthy democratic system. Open channels of communication between the government and the people are essential for building this trust. The government should invest in initiatives that facilitate public discourse, including town hall meetings, forums for youth engagement, and platforms for online debates where citizens can engage with policymakers directly. These forms of dialogue are crucial for addressing grievances, promoting understanding, and ensuring that governance reflects the diverse needs of the population. Moreover, when individuals like Hawa Hunt express their concerns online or through other public platforms, the government should see these as opportunities for constructive feedback rather than threats. By responding to such criticism with a willingness to engage, the government can demonstrate that it values the opinions of its people even when they are critical of the current administration. The role of the international community in supporting reform. As Sierra Leone navigates its political challenges, the international community has a crucial role to play in supporting the country's reform efforts. International organizations, such as the United Nations, the African Union, and the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, have a responsibility to ensure that Sierra Leone adheres to its international commitments to human rights and democracy. These organizations can provide valuable technical assistance, expertise, and diplomatic support to help Sierra Leone build a stronger, more inclusive political system. For example, the United Nations has various mechanisms for supporting the rule of law and human rights in member states. These include providing technical assistance to strengthen legal frameworks, promoting judicial independence, and helping governments address issues such as freedom of expression and political participation. In the case of Hawa Hunt, international pressure and diplomatic engagement can help ensure that Sierra Leone upholds its human rights obligations and avoids using the legal system to target political dissidents. Similarly, ECOWAS, as a regional body committed to promoting peace, stability, and democracy in West Africa, can play a crucial role in ensuring that Sierra Leone remains on the path of democratic reform. ECOWAS has previously intervened in other West African countries to uphold democratic norms, and its involvement in this case could help press Sierra Leone to reform its cybercrime laws and ensure that political dissent is protected under the law. By continuing to work with these international organizations, Sierra Leone can gain access to resources, expertise, and best practices that will help the country navigate its legal and political challenges. International actors can also help amplify the voices of civil society organizations and human rights defenders who are pushing for change, providing them with a platform to advocate for reforms and ensuring that their efforts are not marginalized. International pressure and the pursuit of accountability. The international community's role in Sierra Leone's democratic journey is not just about offering support, but also about holding the government accountable when it violates international human rights standards. In the case of Hawa Hunt, the global response has been swift, with human rights organizations and governments calling for her release and urging the Sierra Leonean government to respect freedom of expression. This international pressure is important for several reasons. First, it signals to Sierra Leone's government those violations of human rights, especially when it comes to political dissent, will not go unnoticed. Second, it provides a form of external accountability, particularly when domestic mechanisms for oversight may be lacking or compromised. And third, it reinforces the idea that human rights are universal, and governments have a responsibility to uphold these rights, regardless of their internal political considerations. However, the role of the international community should not end with public condemnation. Diplomatic efforts can lead to concrete changes, such as encouraging legal reforms or providing support for judicial independence. The international community must remain engaged in Sierra Leone's reform process, ensuring that any steps taken by the government toward democratic development are genuine and effective. Holding the Sierra Leonean government accountable for the treatment of individuals like Hunt is not only about justice for one person, it is about reinforcing the principles of democracy and human rights for the entire nation. Economic implications, political stability, and growth. The political climate in Sierra Leone is closely tied to the country's economic development. Political repression and the suppression of dissent can have negative consequences for the economy, particularly when it comes to attracting foreign investment, fostering entrepreneurship, and encouraging tourism. Investors are less likely to commit to a country where the rule of law is weak and where the government is seen as intolerant of criticism. For Sierra Leone to continue its path to economic growth, it must create a political environment that is conducive to business and innovation. This means ensuring that citizens, including entrepreneurs, journalists, and activists, feel safe to speak their minds without fear of persecution. A stable political environment, where people are free to express their views and engage in political discourse, will attract both domestic and foreign investment, ultimately driving economic growth and job creation. Moreover, the economic costs of political repression, including the potential loss of international aid, trade opportunities, and investment, can be significant. The arrest of Hawa Hunt and the subsequent international outcry may lead to a temporary dip in investor confidence and damage Sierra Leone's image as a stable and welcoming destination for business. To avoid these economic setbacks, Sierra Leone must prioritize the protection of political freedoms and ensure that its legal system is fair and transparent. A strong, functioning democracy is also essential for addressing the country's socio-economic challenges, including poverty, unemployment, and access to education and health care. By allowing space for political dialogue, the government can better understand the needs of its people and formulate policies that address these pressing issues. Citizens who feel heard and valued are more likely to contribute to the development of their country, whether through political participation, entrepreneurship, or community engagement. Youth engagement and education as pillars for long-term change. A crucial element in Sierra Leone's future is the engagement and education of its youth. As the country's demographic profile shows, a large portion of the population is under the age of 30, and these young people represent the future of Sierra Leone. Their involvement in the political process through voting, activism, or social media engagement will shape the direction of the nation for years to come. To ensure that youth have a meaningful role in governance, the government must invest in their education, provide platforms for their voices to be heard, and encourage them to participate actively in public life. Educational initiatives that focus on civic engagement, human rights, and democratic values are essential for empowering young people to become informed and active citizens. By promoting an understanding of the importance of free speech, the rule of law, and accountable governance, Sierra Leone can build a generation of leaders who are committed to upholding the country's democratic ideals. In addition to education, youth should be provided with resources and platforms to voice their concerns and engage in political activism. Whether through social media campaigns, community organizing, or participation in policy discussions, young people can be powerful agents of change. When youth feel that their voices matter and that they can make a difference, they are more likely to remain engaged in the political process and contribute to building a more inclusive democratic society. Navigating Sierra Leone's democratic future. The case of Hawa Hunt serves as a pivotal moment in Sierra Leone's democratic journey. As the country grapples with the complexities of balancing security and freedom of expression, it has an opportunity to show the world that it is committed to upholding human rights and democratic principles. This case can be a catalyst for meaningful legal and political reforms that protect the rights of all citizens, regardless of their political views, while also addressing the challenges of governance in the digital age. Sierra Leone must choose a path that strengthens its democratic institutions, ensures the independence of its judiciary, and protects the rights of its citizens. This path will not only determine the future of one individual, but will also shape the future of the entire country. By embracing open dialogue, protecting free speech, and engaging with civil society and the international community, Sierra Leone can continue to build a more inclusive and democratic society, one where the voices of all its people are heard and respected. As this case progresses, the world will be watching, and the outcome will have lasting implications not only for Sierra Leone, but also for the broader West African region. The country's response to the case of Hawa Hunt will send a powerful message about its commitment to democracy, human rights, and the rule of law, principles that are essential for the long-term stability and prosperity of Sierra Leone. Advice to African leaders: upholding the principles of democracy and human rights. As the case of Hawa Hunt unfolds in Sierra Leone, it serves as a timely reminder to African leaders of the critical importance of safeguarding democracy, human rights, and the rule of law. The future of the continent lies in its ability to nurture political systems that are inclusive, transparent, and responsive to the needs of the people. For democracy to flourish, it is essential that leaders take a proactive stance in defending the rights of their citizens, particularly the right to free speech and the ability to dissent without fear of persecution. To African leaders, it is crucial to understand that political stability and long-term governance are not achieved through the silencing of dissenting voices, but through constructive dialogue, transparency, and accountability. The experience of Sierra Leone, as well as other nations on the continent, should underscore the importance of empowering citizens to speak out, to challenge policies, and to participate fully in the political process. When leaders engage with opposition voices, civil society, and the media, they build trust and a sense of shared ownership of the country's future. Dissent, when handled respectfully and fairly, is not a threat, but an opportunity to strengthen governance and improve policies. Leaders must remember that by defending democratic principles, they ensure the long-term prosperity of their nations, as it is in open, free societies that economic and social development thrives. African leaders must also recognize the significant role of the youth in shaping the continent's future. By fostering a culture of engagement, inclusion, and protection of human rights, they can empower young people to contribute meaningfully to national development. Ensuring that youth are active participants in the political process will help to create a vibrant democracy that can address the challenges of the 21st century. Moreover, African leaders should acknowledge that international cooperation and collaboration are not adversarial but vital to advancing the continent's goals. By engaging with international human rights organizations, other governments, and regional bodies, African leaders can secure the resources, knowledge, and diplomatic support needed to strengthen their democracies and build a more just society. Summary of key messages. The case of Hawa Hunt has highlighted several critical lessons for Sierra Leone and Africa as a whole. 1. Freedom of expression is fundamental. The right to free speech is essential for a functioning democracy. Silencing dissent through legal measures such as the arrest of Hawa Hunt undermines democratic institutions and limits the potential for progress. 2. Legal reform is needed. Sierra Leone's Cybersecurity and Crime Act and similar laws across Africa must be reformed to protect both national security and individual freedoms. Laws should not be used as tools to stifle political opposition or dissent. 3. Engagement and dialogue are crucial. Political leaders must embrace open dialogue with citizens, civil society, and opposition voices. Constructive criticism should be seen as an opportunity for growth rather than a threat to power. 4. The role of civil society and media. Civil society and media play a crucial role in holding governments accountable. They must be able to operate freely without fear of repression. Supporting these institutions strengthens democracy. 5. International cooperation and accountability. Global attention and diplomatic pressure can help ensure that Sierra Leone and other African nations uphold human rights and democratic values. The international community has a role in supporting legal and political reforms in Africa. 6. youth engagement and education. The youth represent the future of Africa. Investing in their education, providing platforms for their voices, and empowering them to participate in the political process are essential for building a strong, democratic continent. 7. Economic growth and stability. Depend on democracy. A stable, democratic political environment fosters economic growth and attracts investment. Political repression can have long-term negative consequences for economic development. Sierra Leone, and by extension Africa, stands at a crossroads. By choosing the path of reform, engagement, and respect for human rights, the continent can move toward a brighter, more inclusive future. African leaders can lead by example, ensuring that democracy, justice, and human rights are at the heart of governance, fostering environments where all citizens can thrive and contribute to the progress of their nations. Thank you for tuning in to the Bold African Voice, BAV. If you find this video insightful, don't forget to like, share, and comment below with your thoughts on this important issue. Make sure to subscribe to stay updated with more critical analyses, in-depth reports, and the latest news shaping Africa's future. And remember, your voice matters. Together, we make the difference.